And we are live. Welcome to the show. So, James Tusk, Troy Francis, I'm in London. You're in Sao Paulo again. Is that correct? Or is that
still here?
Very good.
And I've got to work out how to navigate the issue I always have when I fly from, because I usually always do this around May because we run a big Bogotá boot camp before we head back to Europe and typically have gone to Eastern Europe, which is flying from Brazil, which is technically a high-risk yellow fever place, to Colombia. They only let you board the plane if you've got the original yellow fever vaccine certificate, like the actual paper floppy yellow paper copy. And they don't let you do it if you've got a photocopy. So I've been denied boarding about 4 times flying from Brazil to Colombia. And it's a nightmare because I end up having to get the yellow fever jab. And I've had it it works for 25 years. I've had it about 10 times. And I think the last time I actually had it done, I started actually turning slightly yellow back to my Honkinese roots. So I'm going to do a workaround this time. I'm going to fly to Mexico or to Argentina, stay for a couple of days, and then book another single flight and fly in and kind of get around the loophole, if that makes sense. So yeah. Although exciting to be back in Colombia, the Bogotá, obviously our joint city of sin. Really, they talk about Vegas being the city of sin, but Bogotá really has. If you're up for burning the flame at both ends, burning the candle at both ends, and you just want to get hedonistic as fuck, it's arguably one of the best cities in the world, isn't it, for this stuff?
Well, it certainly is, and that's certainly something that I've discovered. We've been there quite a few times now, haven't we? We've done this event. I mean, you've been there many more times than me, but we've done events there many times now over the last few years, and it's always just been an absolute blast. It's just such a fantastic city, and it's kind of it's slightly deceptive because on the surface it looks relatively. Because we obviously stay in the nicer areas, and it all looks relatively conservative, and there's people there just doing regular jobs and getting on with life and stuff. But just under the surface, there's this incredible debauchery and naughtiness going on, which obviously is right up our proverbial alleyway. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. But in terms of the social side of things, I mean, just super social, very friendly people, very approachable. So if you want to break the back of approaching real life, which is really, still after all this time, what we fundamentally preach and think is getting more and more important, even in the age of AI, then there's really nowhere better than Bogotá to cut your teeth and to get out there and to actually get a bunch of approaches, a bunch of interactions under your belt.
There's not, and there's a massive gringo factor there. So if you're from the UK, Europe, US, and you're approaching there, Colombian women love it. They love foreigners. The benefit of being in Bogotá, the capital city, over somewhere like Medellin, where a lot of Americans will flock to because of the Escobar kind of, I guess, the kind of narrative around that, where Escobar was. And also just typically where there's a big American expat community. The benefit of being in somewhere like Bogotá is low level of gringos in comparison. So you're still a very shiny object. We both approached in Medellin, and honestly, it's a bit like being in Miami or in Rio in Brazil, where there's so many foreigners. You approach a hot Colombian girl, she kind of rolls her eyes. There's no value out being a foreigner, whereas Bogotá, there's value out being a foreigner.
I think the thing with all of this stuff is that, well, the naysayers out there will assume that effectively being a passport bro or just getting on a plane to anywhere means that it's easy pickings and there's no problem at all. And that's not true anywhere, regardless of where you go. But if you are gonna go with the intention of evening out the playing field a little bit so that things are slightly more in your favor, you may as well go somewhere where they actually are in your favor. And like you said, the thing with Bogotá is that rather than being a very touristy spot that's extremely well known, like Medellin or some of the other Colombian destinations, it's a little bit. It's not that it's off the grid because obviously it's the capital, but at the same time, it's more of a serious sort of working city, isn't it? It's a little bit less touristy, and like you said, fewer gringos and so on and so forth. So if you're going to travel to socialize, you might as well go somewhere where you do have some standout value, or more standout value than not. And you've definitely got that in spades over there for sure.
100%. And the other thing, of course, with Colombians in general is it's a very sexual culture. Latin America as a whole is a very sexual. Spanish as a language is a very sexual culture, but especially Latin American Spanish. we spend a lot of time in Mexico and Colombia. It's just a very sensual culture. It's normal to be sexual, which I think, obviously, growing up in hard repressed UK, sexually repressed UK, and obviously you spent some time in Germany, where typically on the outside at least,
even worse.
Well, the interesting thing is when you kind of have this kind of solid, non-sexual kind of party line that society operates in, you often get this subsect of actually debauched nonsense, which obviously in Berlin you get, and same in Japan. People are quite outwardly sexual. Actually, underneath it all, it's virulently sexual. But I'd say Colombia is a lot more outwardly sexual. It's just a very sensual culture. The music, women like to be women. They're extremely feminine. They have no issue dressing up in nothing for a night out and dancing very provocatively. It's seen as what it should be, the beautiful thing it is, right? The dance between the masculine and the feminine. There's no shaming around it. It's absolutely normal to be highly sexual. It's absolutely normal to sleep around. And obviously, if you're a foreign guy that wants to meet hot Latina women and just have fun with Daygame, it's an amazing place to be approaching. The age-old question we always get is, does it matter I don't speak Spanish? And the answer is no, because typically the 18, 25-year-old women you're going to be targeting in Bogota, in the nice areas, are educated, so they speak some English. And even if they don't, most of the time, clients we bring out, if they meet a girl that doesn't speak English and they don't speak Spanish, it doesn't matter at all. Language is 10%. We've gone back through these stats, but 50 to 60% is your internal vibe, right? How you see yourself, your internal energy, your state. Women pick up on that energy. The rest is body language, the non-verbals, and the way you speak. So, I mean, we've had it in Russia, haven't we? We obviously don't speak Russian, but we've seduced women speaking absolutely none of the same language, and it almost gives you an opportunity to work on the non-verbal, slow down your speech, create that sexual tension. You don't need the language, right? You don't need Spanish.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, the thing is, you could definitely. I mean, you know, but like my language skills, as you know, are extremely poor. I mean, I barely even speak English, let alone anything else. So you know, and I think it's to your credit actually that you have. You know, I mean, you spend more time traveling perhaps than I do, so there's more reason for it. But you know, you have actually got stuck in and learned some of these languages more, which is really good. And yeah, of course, it's a benefit. But yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter because, like you say, for the most part, people are going to speak English anyway, or at least enough English for the kinds of conversations that you're going to want to have.
My results haven't actually changed since I've been able to speak Spanish and Portuguese to a degree in Brazil and Latin America. You know, my actual results technically for dating haven't gone up. Just my ease about getting around in life and understanding of the culture has risen. But it actually is easier if you don't speak the language because you have to do more with the non-verbals.
Well, I mean, somebody here has written Bozadir Genshev says, keep up the good work. You guys are the top. R.I.P. Tom Torero. I mean, Torero famously said, do you remember this? He said it was almost that you shouldn't learn the language. I think, to be fair, he was talking about for short trips, but he was saying don't bother learning their language because it's almost like falling into their frame. It's almost like, no, your frame is, this is how I speak, and you either, you know, it's almost like don't lean into her, she's meant to lean into you, kind of thing. Now, in practice, do I entirely agree with that? I don't know, but I know where he was coming from. You know, it's almost like, no, look, you know, I'm the high value guy, and not in a patriarchal sort of xenophobic British way of like, oh, you should all learn English, but more like, this is where I'm at. Obviously, I'm going to do my best to communicate with you. We can use a bit of Google Translate and stuff, but I'm not, you know, just randomly going to learn a language to try and impress you because I'm a high value guy and I've got other options. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I agree with him. For a short trip to Moldova away, you're not going to learn fucking Moldovan, are you? I do think it is worth, if you are spending more time in Latin America, it is worth learning Spanish because it's a level 1 language, right? So compared to say, Russian, which is a level 4 language, if you actually practice half an hour a day just conversationally, you can get pretty fluent within 3 to 6 months. I mean, it's not actually particularly hard.
How do you find, just out of interest, how do you find switching between Portuguese and Spanish? Because obviously we were in Rio recently and you were speaking, you know, your Portuguese seems to be pretty decent conversationally, from what I can see anyway. And yet you're able to flip between that and Spanish, but they're obviously quite similar. So is that difficult, or is it almost easier because they're kind of similar?
I think if I was having a conversation with two people, if there was a Brazilian girl sitting there and a Colombian girl, and I was trying to flip between the languages like that, that'd be quite complicated. But if you're clear separation, spend a couple of months in Brazil just speaking Portuguese, a couple of months in Colombia, it's quite easy. They're 90% the same language, but the difference is obviously the accent and stuff. But they're pretty symbiotic to learn. If you learn one to a reasonable level, it's actually quite easy to learn the other. So definitely not at the same time. But and the other thing about Portuguese is guys will come to Brazil with us like they did in Rio Carnival. It's typically quite polarizing, isn't it? Guys will either fall in love with it or they'll just be like, I'm not sure about this. Because, to learn Portuguese, given that only Macau, the gambling mecca, the Portuguese themselves and Angola speak it, and Brazil, it's a very niche language to learn in a way. It's not hard. Again, it's a level 1 language, but it's like, why the fuck would you? So Brazil, maybe for guys on the list, if they come to Carnival, it's an awesome experience. I know guys that come to Carnival and they've learned Portuguese just because they thought Brazil. It is awesome. It's an awesome place to be.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
cheat code. I found that you know about it, but this cheat code way I've been using in Sao Paulo is just like, oh my god, it's like discovering Daygame for the first time. And taking a load of Viagra. It's just 2 or 3 of them rolling around a day. But obviously now I'm clean from the powder. That has all addictions have been funneled into just a hardcore sex addiction. So,
well, that's good to hear. We need to what we need to do really. This is a note to ourselves as well as to the viewers is to restart the podcast that we are supposed to be doing, which we can do on YouTube, but we can also put out on the audio platforms as well, because we want to talk about some more of this kind of live stuff as well. So we should definitely be doing that, because like I was saying to you earlier, I've started doing I suppose you could call it. I suppose it kind of is a podcast. I mean, but only in the way that. You know how Alex Hormozy basically does a video. He just releases like a few videos a week, but he releases it, or you can listen to it on audio on Spotify. And I think, or you can watch the video if you really want to watch the video. So just doing that. But I think we should start doing the same thing for some of this slightly more niche content that relates more to the lifestyle, because I think guys find that stuff interesting. So note to ourselves, but yeah, I mean. Obviously, Colombia coming up. That is on what do we say? The 24th to the 27th of April. So it's in a few weeks' time. So it's still eminently doable, even if you're coming from Europe or from the UK, and certainly from the
States. We've got 5 clients. We've got room for a couple more. We're actually going to be in town. I'm going to be there from the 18th, as is Les, so 6 days before. So even if you can't, ideally come and do the bootcamp dates. It's 20 hours over 5 hours a day, infield. Daygame, 2 sessions a day, and possibly some night game in the evening for Friday and Saturday, but mainly focused Daygame, taking you out, filming your approaches, sitting down, giving you feedback, myself, Troy and Les there. But even if you can't make those exact dates, we've got a couple of clients coming in before and a couple of clients coming in after. So myself and Les will be there from the 18th of April, so a week's time, and we'll be there for a good week afterwards. So there's actually there's a big period from the 18th of April until kind of early May. If you can't make the bootcamp dates, come in, and just use the fact we're there. I've been going to Bogota for 7 years now. I know it extremely well. Troy's been coming for a number of years, as is Les. We really know this city like the back of our hands. We know how to date there. We know the best restaurants, the best bars, the best day game spots. We know this place inside out. So leverage the fact that we're there to have a great time and we understand the culture. Just come and join us.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, what we are offering now is there's a combination of things going on here, because on the one hand we became over the years, and I think particularly you James there's almost a tour guide element to this, and there's a lads holiday element to this. If we're being completely honest, it's like, come out, you're going to meet some really cool guys, you're going to have a blast. There's going to be that communal thing, which is really. And even if you're relatively introverted, like I can be at times, it's great when you're trying to learn a new skill set or force yourself into action, to have a bunch of people, of like-minded people around you. And, everyone, the people that we get, we speak to everyone by phone first. We make sure that the people are a good fit and everything. So we always get decent guys. There's a variety of personalities there, of course, like anything, but we always get decent guys. Obviously, all the trainers, myself, James, Les is going to be there. It's going to be it's just going to be a very, very solid group of people there. You've got that camaraderie side of things,
but these are all repeat clients, so we know them all.
Yeah,
clients come out.
Yeah,
guys.
Well, we've got. I think we've got one new guy who's coming along.
2 new guys.
A couple of new guys and then some regulars. But what we're also now increasingly doing, and this is sort of, we're trying to upgrade. Well, we're upgrading the offering basically. So we are very much doing much more personalised sort of packages for people, which could lead into further training. But even just as part of this, what we will be doing is observing you on a daily basis, figuring out, okay, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and then giving you during, but also at the end of it, almost like a sort of, right, here's a 3-month plan. These are the things you need to be focusing on. These are the things you need to be working on, and make it very much personalized to each client, because everyone's different. People are coming at this from totally different baseline levels, and we recognize that, and we're trying to offer something that's a lot more personalized and bespoke now, even though it's in a communal setting, which I think is really valuable, isn't it?
It is, and I think what we've really shifted into doing is, as you said, mapping out, right, if you're going to actually take this stuff away from the training where you've got that environment of the boot camp and you're having a blast with all of us, how can you then implement that when you're on your own to become the social animal? Because it's just a skill set, being social, flirting. It's just a skill set. You have to have the mindset of putting this stuff into practice when you're away from us, and we're there to include it as part of the training, to hold you accountable to that. But then also what we've started doing, as you've alluded to, is thinking, right, we are the product, right? So, the client comes, and objectively speaking, we're not him. So we're not emotionally attached, in the sense that we have the awareness to be able to go, right, we need to fix up your marking things out of 10, right? What's his body, what's he look like when he's naked, like out of 10? We're not doing the Shawshank. We're not stripping them naked and free powdering them, but on occasion, depends how much 2C we've done. What's his fashion like? What's his social skills like? What's his ability to predict sexual attention like? What's his, given that you live in a reality and men are island and women are boats, and you have to drag women into the reality, what's your day-to-day life look like? How much do you enjoy that? What have you got going on outside of your work? Do you enjoy your job? So mapping out the whole sexual market kind of place around this guy, and being like, right, tweet that as a longer form process. We're also starting to integrate that, and that's been monumental, really, because it's one thing teaching you one string of the bow, which is to be social and work on the social skills. It's a totally another thing to actually overhaul your value and level that up, which very few guys focus on doing. So we're really coming with an integrated approach now to think, right, how can we really guys maximize their short time on planet Earth as viable dating objects, and get them potentially the best women they can.
And what we're doing is, we're working with a number of clients now on a sort of slightly longer term basis, and we're going through sort of a multi-month, even year-long sort of packages with people, and really working with them one-on-one to get them to the best the best position they possibly can. And you can do that, or you don't have to do that. If you just come on the boot camp, then we're gonna give you something to go away with for 3 months. We'll give you that accountability afterwards anyway, as part of the cost of the boot camp. But it's really we're really systemizing this now in a way that I don't think anyone else is doing, but we're trying to, but also not overloading you as well. And we're trying to strike that balance, because this isn't a PhD course. This is meant to be fun, right? This is leveling up your life and meeting attractive girls and having a great social life and a great time. I mean, it's meant to be fun, right? It's not a degree course, but at the same time, there are certain fundamentals that all of us, need to look at and need to be focused on. And that's kind of what we're trying to do. But I mean, maybe just going back to the general debauchery and fun of Bogota, because we're getting too much into the weeds of the serious stuff now. It really is just such a fucking fun place, isn't it? It really is probably one of my favorite places, I think, to teach this stuff, and one of the easiest places to teach it as well, I think, just because of the number of opportunities and the walkability of it, and the general fun vibe that there is.
Well, the key question is, again, really posed to ourselves is, I'm just going to share this with my list, the live feed, is, are we going to do the big one, or are we going to pretend we're going to do it and not do it? That
is a question that perhaps we should leave for leave for another day, but possibly I would be tempted. There's a couple of people with some questions here we could have a look at. I'm going to Rio in June. Any tips? Well, so just reflecting back on the Rio bootcamp, I mean, it was kind of a, because for people that don't know, and maybe I think there's about 80 people watching now, so probably some of you do know, some of you don't, but we just came off a bootcamp a couple of weeks ago, Rio, Brazil, which was my first time there. It was emotional. Let's say, for various reasons, and I'm still kind of recovering. And the only reason, if I look even half decent, the only reason is because my face has been filled with so much Botox by our mutual woman who looks after us, that I can't actually show any emotion on my facial features at all. But it was kind of a weird. It's
did you get OD'd? Did you OD on the old Botox? Did glasses?
Because what happened very briefly was I had an appointment and I got it done, and then I had to go back for another appointment to do with the dental thing I was doing, and I sort of said to her, because I normally say to them, "Oh, can you give me a top up? Because you might as well try and get your money's worth." And she had a look and she said, "Oh, actually, I think I'll give you another full vial." And she said, "I'll just give it to you gratis," because she said you really need to relax the muscles. So she did that, and I think it's worked. I think it's worked really well. I'm pretty happy with the result. But yeah, I mean,
you thought you had too much, or no?
I don't think so. I mean, other people may disagree. I think
I don't think you did. I definitely did. Because I strayed away from her, which I don't like doing, because I like to. The good thing about going to one is it's actually relevant to a lot of the viewers, right? So, I mean, I've been having Botox for around 5 years. Look, if you're single and you're mid-30s or older, and you don't want to looking like, you know, Gordon Ramsay's long lost pre-Botox train track, you know, trench forehead is not a good look. So we both go to the same woman who does dentistry as well. She's very good, and the benefit of having that is it's tracked every, say, 6 months. But I needed a desperate top up in Rio, so I went off piste and went to a Brazilian. And they really go wild with it in Brazil. And I said, whatever you do, please just keep me looking natural. So inevitably I walked out, and within a day, my eyebrows just pointed upwards. Position. Looked basically horrified, you know, looked like I've seen a ghost for a week.
Yeah.
And it's just too much, isn't it? But I think you were fine. I think they overdid it.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said, I think, in general, for like she's really good now. This is actually probably of no interest to any of the viewers who aren't going to go and see this particular woman. But I think just
in need of a dentist who is excellent, and I've been using for many years, and I actually recommend it to you. And she does Botox. She's honestly just awesome at what she does.
Well, I'm sure if you want to, I'm sure if anyone's in the London area and you're interested in that, you can drop us a message and we can probably share her details. But I think just as a general point, I like to find people that I can work with over the longer term. You know, people who can kind of get to know you. So whether it's somebody who does your hair or somebody who does your accounts or, you know, whatever it is, like it's good to build relationships with people. And
well, I'm not sure about your accounts. I'm not sure the coffers person is they're probably due the sack, aren't they?
That's true. And let's not get into the tailoring either. But
oh God,
yeah. So Justin says, for someone who is tall and good looking, would you say it's best to forget about these advantages to really get the most out of dating, or would you say it's best to lean into this? I mean, I don't really. And then we're focusing on one's looks hamper his dating life going forward, i.e., ego, etc. I don't fully understand the question really. I think it sounds like you've got some massive natural advantages. So just go with that. I don't see what
this is actually relevant in the sense that the kind of what happened with me is I was worshipping from the altar of Torero, because obviously his content was very, very good. He was a very good teacher. He could break stuff down in bite-sized chunks. But what I wasn't doing is accounting for the fact that I was and still am a tall, decent-looking guy and in good shape. And so I was playing a game that wasn't actually congruent with how I was. And I was mixing Nick Crowd stuff, which is also very good. But the problem is the avatar I was presenting, tattooed, muscled, good looking, women were like, this guy's trying too hard, because their game was catered for them. They were skinnier dudes. They weren't that good looking. You know, they hadn't got the natural advantages that I had. And this Justin James is saying he had. So you've got to make the game stuff. There are universal principles you'll use with women that are always going to work, but you've got to tailor it to you and be congruent with you. Women test for congruency. So I wasn't being congruent. And then they were just getting this weird vibe like, why is he trying so hard? He doesn't need to do this. Right?
So you're almost overcompensating.
Wasn't playing the avatar.
Yeah, almost overcompensating, because if you're, some decent looking guy and whatever, and then you start doing the cube or sort of strawberry fields in the nightclub, it's a bit like, well, what the hell's he? This doesn't make any sense.
The problem is because I grew up in the UK, went to a private school, grew up with younger brothers. I hadn't had that much experience, especially being sober around hot women, so I didn't know what I was doing. So my internal perception of my own value actually wasn't that good either. I wasn't racing myself when it came to birds. So not only was I trying too hard, women are sensing that he doesn't really understand how he looks. So actually, in a lot of ways, it backfired. So I think actually really being self-aware does help.
That's an interesting side issue, though, actually, because do you think that without going down some black pill alleyway here, does that matter? Because don't you think women, like, if say the guy is objectively really good looking, like more or less good looking, but he doesn't realize it. Isn't
Yes.
that an advantage for the average woman? Because doesn't she think, I've snagged a bargain here? Or do you think she thinks he's really good looking, but the fact that he doesn't show that confidence, or that almost then makes him less attractive? Does that make sense? Because I think if it was the other way around, I think the other way around. I think for a guy, it's almost like the dream, isn't it? When the guy meets this incredibly beautiful woman,
ugly duckling syndrome,
and she doesn't realize her value, and so he feels like he's won the lottery. Whereas maybe with women, it's different because they're looking at it more psychologically.
Women, it's the State of Mind article, which will post. Great Chateau Hartis article, probably his best one, which is, it doesn't matter what your station in life is, you rock it like you're a fucking boss, right? Gene Simmons quote, life is way too short not to have delusional notions about self. Basically, whoever the fuck you are, if you can radiate the self-perception of absolutely unshakable, I am the fucking dog's bollocks, women will pick up on that vibe. Women pick up on your internal vibe, your self-perception. I'd say that's 70% of what they're actually picking up on. Right, the energy you see yourself as. So it doesn't matter who the fuck you are. If you see yourself as a fucking boss, and it's not too externally incongruent, as long as you're not actually like living on the street homeless, that does a lot of heavy lifting for you, right? So I actually have had comments where women have said, and this is, I've obviously caught up with congruence factor now, so it's not an issue, but I've had it before where I've been in bed with a girl and she's like, this was just too easy. And she's almost a bit pissed off. And I've had it where I had it with one girl I was dating where she was like, if only you realized. And then she cut herself off. I was like, realize what? And she's like, it doesn't matter. But I knew because I got her drunk a few weeks later and I went, look, I'm not going to let this go. Went back to conversation. It was in Bino Veritas. She was like, if only you realize your actual value. You just don't get it.
They said, I think
they'll take the bang because you've got good looking genetics, but they won't really respect your worship from the altar of like being completely submissive to you because you don't get it. You lack self-awareness. You lack emotional intelligence. So no, if you're a good-looking guy, you absolutely need to realize that and lean into it. And actually, all guys should be looks maxing. So all guys should be absolutely ripping themselves down via our cheat code.
Yes.
Of is it frozen? Or can we still hear?
Am I frozen?
Every guy needs to do the good-looking loser thing, which is absolutely dress as the best you can, shred yourself down to a low percentage body fat, get yourself completely facially maxed out, and learn the game stuff. Because there is no benefit to. Why wouldn't you do that?
And get a desperate top up of Botox like a melt, like an insecure.
You melt. Insecure melt. Well, a couple of melts because we're both going to the same woman. We're moonlighting.
It's a good word.
It's always interesting when people have a vitriolic reaction. It makes me think, okay, probably that guy needs Botox. Because whenever guys it's the Joe Rogan thing, I'll never forget it, which is whenever someone says something about you or in the general kind of atmosphere that triggers you to a large degree, there's something there, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Indeed. So there's a couple of points here that are sort of vaguely connected. So, are your trips for women or tourism as well? Well, generally they're for money, to be honest, because we have this we do
business.
We do this as a business, so it's mainly that, and also obviously Class A drugs. Not women because I've got a girlfriend, and I prefer ladyboys anyway. I don't know about James, but then Aurelia says, do you ever feel deflated when you travel specifically to do cold approach and don't end up pulling on your trip? It's never happened, mate. MPUA. Well, I don't know. What's the honest answer to this? These days, the answer, if I wasn't in a relationship, the answer would be no, because I would probably be traveling. I do generally travel for other, like I tend to travel. Partly, because there may be a dating element attached to it, but also probably because I just want to go there and see the place. Like, say I went to Kazakhstan, for example. Like, it would just be cool to go to Kazakhstan. Like, it wouldn't, and if nothing ended up happening, okay, fine. It's not really a problem. I think back in the day, maybe I would have been more deflated. I think now I care less. Secondly, we've got various different hacks and different methods we use that make what you're describing very unlikely. But also, I would say a certain Mr. M, a friend of both of ours. I think he was very deflated on what, because he prided himself on every trip being successful, didn't he? And then we went to Berlin, of all places, and I think he wasn't, and he was very deflated. I think it depends on what point you are in your journey with this stuff, to be honest. But I sort of think I think overall it's like nothing's guaranteed in life. You never 100% know if something's going to happen or something's not. So I think you should do a trip and just be like, look, obviously I hope the outcome is going to be positive, but equally if it's not, I'm going to have a blast anyway. Cool to see a new country, great to just experience a different culture, and that's good enough, you know.
100%, and again, it's just a snapshot of if you get laid, right? As cheesy as it sounds, the goal or the destination is the journey. So if you're going through the motions of flirting with the world, having fun, going out, thinking, how can I make this more fun, interacting with loads of girls, and it doesn't happen, but you put in your part of the bargain, which is take the action, do the reps, and had fun with it, it doesn't matter. It actually doesn't matter, because that work rate over time will generate you the results.
And also, it's slightly sort of. I think back in it depends how you're doing it as well, how you're traveling. I mean, if you're looking at back in the 2012 days of Tom in his van going to some rainy Eastern European sort of shithole, and you know, it could all get a little bit miserable and deflating. But I mean, for a start, we tend to travel. You know, we tend to meet up when we travel, or we meet people that we know, and so it's a kind of a social thing anyway. There's other elements to it. Somebody was asking, is it about tourism? I mean, yeah, we'll do some touristy things. I'm a bit disappointed we didn't do some of the touristy stuff I kind of wanted to do in Rio, but you know, another time.
Same.
But another time. But I mean, yeah, there's an element of that. But it's not just like tourism. It's not like, oh, I'll go and see the Eiffel Tower. It's also just being there, experiencing the vibe, sitting in the coffee shops, being in the streets, feeling the energy. It's all that kind of side of things, which I think is incredibly valuable.
I actually like the position we're in with this stuff now. We've both done our time in the trenches, thousands of reps. We've been on hundreds of dates. We've slept with hundreds of women. And I'm not trying to say this is an ego thing. We're at a part of the process now where less is more. So we can go to a place. We'll probably in a week or 10 days, we're probably going to end up sleeping, both of us, with a couple of birds, or you would have done before your relationship historically. But the good thing is the pressure's not really on anymore. Like, we don't have that not to count hyena of every trip we need to get laid. And so conversely, we're more likely to get laid because we don't actually care anymore. And so there's an inherent non-neediness to what we do, and we're able to go and have conversations and just enjoy it. And the irony is, of course, the less you need it, the more the universe gives it to you. Yeah. So we're in quite a privileged position. And the only reason we've been able to get there is because we actually were so desperate to get laid. And we're not, this is coming from absolute scarcity. We're both so desperate to get laid. We put in so many reps. We did so many thousands of approaches to get laid to justify, you know, our incredibly low self-esteem, that we managed to get laid a lot. But we did the work. So if that makes sense to people, I don't know. But you do need to go with everything. You absolutely need to overcompensate to get good at it.
Yeah.
If you're starting out watching this stuff and you feel you haven't banged enough birds, and I always say, look, honestly, it varies from guy to guy, but if you meet your dream girl off the second approach and she's actually your 9 out of 10, give up cold approach and give it a go with her. But I'd say most guys, to understand how this stuff works, to have as a repeatable format to get laid, and to know what you actually like in women by dating lots of women, you need to sleep with 100 women from cold approach. I know that sounds like a ridiculously high number for guys that are probably, you know, if you've only slept with 2 or 3 women, but that's where I really started to figure this stuff out. Really from a high level is when I slept with around 100 birds. And there's a lot of rejection that focusing on the process of having fun and how can I make this 10% more fun, 10% more enjoyable? What's the learning point from this? What's the growth mindset from this? Seeing it as a beautiful process you're learning to get good with the opposite sex, not a chore. You can find ways to make this very enjoyable. And then obviously adding in travel and jetting around the world and having adventures with cool people. It's actually a very fucking fun lifestyle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see why men wouldn't want to do this stuff.
Yeah, personally. Yeah, I agree. Will this guy get? How do you pronounce?
Well, I have been scolopamine. I did get it's called the devil's breath. It's nut on the tree, but ironically, I had it in Brazil. I woke up. This went to get some powder of the night, different form of powder, and this guy breathed some stuff off a card into my face, and I just kind of woke up in a hotel room. Had a flight to Vegas in 2 hours. The lady of the night, who I was with, was sitting in the corner just watching me. I was stark naked, pounding headache. Looked down at my stuff. Unbelievably, she hadn't robbed me. My passport, my phone, my wallet were all still there. And I got away with it. It's very prevalent in Medellin, scolopamine, but it's not prevalent in Bogota. It's very
I mean, look, I mean, things can happen, but it's not something I've never experienced it. James obviously has, unfortunately, once, but that was a slightly edgy situation, let's say. I think for the most part, none of our students have. It seems to be something that happens through dating apps a bit. You know, you meet some girl through it. Whenever I hear about it, it's always like, oh, we met on Tinder, and then she asked me to go to this weird, you know, her apartment in some different part of town. It's always some slightly sketchy story. So with the kind of thing that we're doing, it is, I would say, extremely unlikely. But you know, I mean, look, things happen, but things happen anywhere. I mean, the mobile phone theft is more prevalent in London than in Rio. So I'm more likely to get my phone stolen. Yeah, so I'm more likely to get my phone stolen in Mayfair than I am walking through Rio. So it's like stuff can happen everywhere, really. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then
is that the guys on mopeds? Is that still a thing?
Yeah. Apparently it's really big. It's a really big thing. You're coming to Poland, likely at some point in the coming months. RL says I was in Bogota for about 1.5 months. It was all right, but I prefer CDMX, Mexico City. Women in Colombia are too loose. What kind of criticism is that? That sounds like
too loose.
Too loose. How is that possible? But he says another thing: feminism is very much alive there. If you're looking for traditional, whatever they call it these days, try a different city like Manizales or Pereira. Now, I think you've been to Pereira at least, haven't you, James? But I mean, what I would say is, I mean. That may or may not be true. I still think it's less prevalent there than it is in London or the US. But even if it is true, and it's becoming this rampantly feminist place, people still want to have sex. You know, it doesn't. You don't need to go to a dark ages country in order to become intimate and have a great time. It's a little bit of a self-defeating kind of way to think about it. I would say.
When also having spent time in, say, Scandinavia, which is extremely feminist, the flip side of that is unbridled promiscuity from women if you're a tourist. So we will often go to Helsinki. Guys will be who don't get laid at all in the UK will be seen with 3 or 4 women a week because the women have absolutely no bars on them just being incredibly promiscuous and just having a load of fun. So as a tourist, it doesn't matter. I mean, the guys coming out to Bogota, I'm assuming, aren't looking for a wife. Maybe for one night only, but not for any length of time. So I wouldn't advise that on a boot camp with us anyway.
So Holge says, wouldn't it be better to teach in a country where girls speak English? Well, many of them do speak English, but I would say that it's better to teach in a country where guys can get the most bang for their buck socially. That is to say, they could go into interactions and proceed that interaction as far as possible. I mean, you know, we could do everything in London. But the problem with London is that it's a relatively difficult. It's not impossible, but it's a relatively difficult place. So what happens is that guys will do approaches and get a lot of rejections and a lot of walking up and going, "Oh, hi, you look really nice," and her going, "Yeah, I've got a boyfriend," and walking off, which is okay as far as breaking through approach anxiety is concerned and everything. But what you really want to be doing is having full interactions that lead through to getting a phone number and then taking it to a date and then maybe taking it further from there. And you're more likely to get that because the more times you do the whole process from A to Z, the more repetitions you do of that, the more familiar you are with the process. So rather than going somewhere where everyone speaks English, but you get blown out all the time, and so you just end up you just stick an A or B. Why not go somewhere where you're more likely to go to A to Z? Which is why we'll go to countries where sometimes English isn't the main language. But like we said before, I mean, it's not a huge problem there anyway, because there is a reasonable level of English. And even if there isn't, there are other means like Google Translate and stuff like that you can use.
So we've got a few other questions here. Have you ever traveled to Southeast Asia? Yes. Thailand is very good. Do you always go for the pool on the first date, even if she doesn't seem like that kind of girl? Yes, women are inherently sexual. It's the thing we
kind of girl.
Well, it's the age-old issue guys have of still, I see this a lot, is guys will in the Madonna whore complex. Some guys think, oh, she's a good girl, she'll never fuck, you know, and they pedestalize certain women just on basis of how they look or how they come across. But often the most innocent-looking ones, as we know, are actually the most debauched. Women are women; they're very, very sexual.
They're all
It's natural, right? It's the reason we're all here is sex. And again, it's been societal upbringing, religion. It demonizes sex to be this like, oh, you know, it's like it's not natural. It's the most natural thing you can do.
In fact,
sleeping and eating. I mean, it's what we're born to do, reproduce. We're just fucking animals.
In fact, if anything, like I think we were saying earlier, or I was saying to somebody earlier, I mean, the more repressed the society, the more actually under the surface, the more sexual that society is, you know. And I think we were talking about Germany, actually. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, God knows what rural
Japan as well.
Yeah,
Japan
God knows what's happening in rural Germany. But I mean, certainly if you look at Berlin, and to be fair, that they'll always say, well, Berlin's almost not Germany; it's almost like its own entity. But I mean, if you look at the incredibly sexualized culture that's going on there, in this country that is very, on the surface, very bureaucratic and very straight laced, it's pretty incredible. There's this one. Have you been to Manchester or Liverpool? I bet those places aren't as bad as London. I've been to both. You can have full interactions or romantic ones compared to London. Well, I've been to both. I used to live in Manchester. I've been to Liverpool many times back in the day, back in the 90s. And yeah, I mean, they're fun cities. But I mean, look, when I'm saying you can't have full interactions or romantic ones in London, I mean, yes, you can. I'm just saying it's not as easy. This is what we're saying. Is that if you're looking at my unique value in London as an English dude is relatively is okay, but it's not huge because I'm just another English dude. If I go to somewhere that's a foreign place, right? I'm just using me as an example. If any English dude goes to a different place, then you suddenly gain a bit more value because you're this kind of exotic thing, right? And it's the same way in London. Now, the problem with both Manchester and Liverpool is if you add the populations of both of those places together, it's still dwarfed by the population of London, because there's 10 million people here. Manchester, I think, is about, depending on what you count, I mean, it was only about 500,000. I mean, if you count the outside, maybe it comes up to about 1 million. Liverpool less. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, you could make things happen there like you can anywhere. But are they paradises for dating? I mean, not
no,
really. I mean,
let's be honest. The north of the UK is not a paradise for dating by any stretch.
Yeah.
George Pickle. I like that.
What's your end game? Well, I mean, the end game is that in time the Earth will be consumed by flames and fire, and all remnants of humanity will be eradicated forever, and no one will ever know that our species existed. So there is no end game, bro. And whether or not I pass my DNA on is completely irrelevant in the bigger picture. Sorry to put an existential downer on things, but that is the reality, right? Unless we all get on the rocket to Mars with Elon Musk, which sounds like
he did actually. Elon Musk did mention something which stood out to me as quite funny a few years back, and it's probably true, which is one of the most time-consuming and waste of time things you can do as a man is run around fucking women and not reproducing, which I found hilarious.
Yeah, he's got a point. No, Musk
does have a point to a degree.
Musk's got a point. But Musk's actually got quite a few kids. I think he's got like 10 kids or something like that. But I mean, there isn't really an end game. There isn't really an end game, because even Musk is gonna die, and even if his 10 children or whatever it is are surrounding him on the bedside and everything, he's still gonna leave. His consciousness is going to. He will be alone at that moment when his consciousness evaporates and he leaves this mortal coil and goes on to whatever, which is probably eternal nothingness that happens afterwards. And I mean, yes, it's great that he's passed on his DNA and everything, but it's not going to matter a damn to him once the lights are off. Okay, there is no end game really. It's like James has said, it's about the journey. You know, the idea that passing on your DNA is some kind of, I mean, like billions and billions of the poorest, dumbest, most insignificant people on the planet do it every day. Passing on your DNA is no huge achievement. You know, writing a great novel, creating a great work of art, being a great political dictator. You know, that maybe is an achievement. You know.
I mean, from my experience of traveling the world for the best part of 7 years and chasing hedonism, yeah, it's been fucking fun. I mean, I'm getting paid to charge around, travel the world, chase women, do substances, drink, have a load of fun. Historically, it's been an awesome ride. My plan is eventually, actually, I'm 38, but I've always said if I am going to have a family, which I'm not against, if I meet the right girl, I'm going to be spending a lot more time in Eastern Europe hunting for that. If I can do it before 45, have kids, I will. But I'm also not gun to my head about it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But the entirety of life, the brain is always working against us, right? So the brain is a survival machine. It hasn't caught up with the fact that we don't actually have any real problems. We're at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're just existing. We're born, we breathe a certain number of breaths, we have heartbeats, and we die. There's not actually any point to life now because we're in the Anglosphere world and people watching this, we're actually safe. There's nothing to really worry about. So what you've really got to find is stuff that energizes you, that leaves you feeling, oh, fuck, that's exciting, that's fun. For me, traveling for a long period of time, traveling around, meeting new people, being social, exploring new cultures, trying new food, dating new women, having hedonistic experience was extremely satisfying for me. It made me feel alive. And so that's kind of where I've been with this stuff. So what I'd encourage all guys to do is find stuff that energizes you, makes you feel alive. It could be adrenaline shit. It could be even reading a book. I mean, it doesn't need to be, it could be sitting in nature. Just find stuff that you walk away from and you feel energized, right? People. Do you feel energized walking away from that person, or do you feel drained? If you feel drained from the activity or the person, probably a good sign that your gut, your real brain is telling you, right, they're not for me, or that's not for me. And that's all life is, an experiment. Try out lots of different things and find the shit that makes you feel alive and do more of that shit. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I just think the question is framed like I don't accept the framing of the question of there being an end game. I just don't think it really.
Well, he's saying basically, unless you have a kids at the end of this, is it all kind of worth it? And
if you do have kids at the end of it, is it worth it? Because there are plenty of people who've had kids who are completely gone and forgotten, and so are their kids, and so are their grandkids.
It's like, whatever makes you happy. It's whatever makes you happy.
Exactly.
Possibly he has a point in a sense that we are just animals. That maybe we're born, we should reproduce on a technical level. So I do accept that, and I do think on a personal level, if I don't have kids and I reach 65, 70, I could see myself, I'm very bad at predicting how I'm going to feel in the future. I'm never able to do it, but I could see myself probably being quite lonely and depressed. Probably. So the goal for me is to find someone and have kids. I've got no real hard frame on it, but
So a couple more. We'll probably finish quite soon, but we'll go through a couple more. If you go to Colombia, do the women genuinely like you, or are they just looking to take from you? No, I think it's you've got a screen, and it depends if you're a buffoon and you go there and you present in a certain way that makes women likely to try and take advantage of you, then yeah, maybe it's going to be very transactional. If you go there with a frame that you're a high value person and you're worth getting to know, then no, I mean that they will genuinely like you. And also they're individuals. I mean, you can't just paint everyone with the same brush. I mean, there are people who are opportunistic in Colombia like there are in London, and there are people who are very sweet and lovely and not opportunistic at all. So
the obviously deeper thing behind this is who we actually are as people. Women, unfortunately, women fuck what you represent a lot of the time. So it doesn't matter who you are, right? If you're Guns N' Roses on stage, they don't know who fucking Axl Rose is on a personal level. They see what he represents: power, emotion, and they want to fuck him. So unfortunately, the way women work, they're the sexual selectors, is often women fuck what you represent. How does he make me feel? They don't know you on a deep interpersonal level. They don't know your hopes, your fears, your dreams. And you shouldn't really be telling them that, being super vulnerable anyway to seduce them, because it won't work. But you could ask the question, pose the question: do women ever truly fuck who you are, or do they fuck who you represent and how you make them feel? And unfortunately, or fortunately, because you can play the game and manipulate it, they're really fucking how you make you feel and what you represent, rather than who you actually are at a deep insular level.
It's their perception of you. It's their and that's why actually it's quite good. I mean, straying into dating advice now, but that's actually why it's quite a good idea not to give away too much up front, because you want to let her imagination do the work rather than
caffeinating the hamster, they call it, don't they?
Yeah.
On the hamster, it's running on the treadmill.
The Cadillac racing fans going on about the north again. Well, nowhere near the place around the world of paradise, but at least in the north you have friendly interactions with people and be happy.
It sounds like you need to get the fuck out of the UK, man. I mean, we're kind of you doing it as this narrative. Compared to London, it's great, but compared to Brazil, Colombia, it's also we travel to.
It's also a little bit of a myth. I mean, people in London are pretty friendly as well, particularly at night on the tube when everyone's had a few. It gets very friendly. And he says also the 2020s have changed a lot. You might give it a visit, give it a shot. I was there actually last year. I was in Manchester last year, and it was cool. I mean, I'm not arguing. I mean, it was cool. It was it's good fun, good vibe, good city. But I'm just saying that I mean, James has just said it. Really, I think there are places that are probably. I mean, well,
there's no probably about it. I mean, we can really comparing the north of England to a night out in Moscow for women. I mean, it's just unbelievable we're even having this conversation. I know we've got to humour these people because we need them to put money into our coffers and pay us for stuff. But come on, I mean, are we really?
I mean, Steve Jabber's not even on the show, like dating in Shrewsbury or whatever. I think Steve did a video on
Swindon Town away.
Yeah. But anyway, what you should really do is come to Bogota with us on the 24th to the 27th of April. So you can just drop me an email. Drop James an email, info@jamestusk.com or troy@realtroyfrancis.com. Just put bootcamp in the subject line or whatever. Give us your WhatsApp details and we'll jump on a quick call with you. We can talk you through all the details. But
it's going to be a blast, and also this is the last time we're in Latin America until probably Rio Carnival next year. So last chance to come out to Latin America. Troy's already in the UK. He's going to be flying out especially for that. I'm in Brazil, but end of May, we always basically settle in Europe for another 6 months and run stuff in Eastern Europe. So or Poland, things like that. So we're not going to be back. This is the last of the Latin American boot camps for 2025. So Bogota really is the place. If you've never come to Latin America, it's the place to be. Incredibly hot, promiscuous women, incredibly open to meeting foreigners. Myself, Troy, and Les are going to be there. We know Bogota like the back of our hands. There's no reason not to come. You'll have an absolute blast. There's a good group of guys. There's 5 guys signed up. Got space for another 2. Get in touch. At least have a chat with us. If you've been watching this content for a long time and you like the idea of putting down the fucking apps and going out and talking to women, I can guarantee you it's the most satisfying way you're ever going to meet a member of the opposite sex, is manning up, seeing them in a place like a restaurant or a cafe or a shopping mall, plucking up the courage to go and actually speak to them, creating some chemistry, getting a number, texting her, getting on a date, seducing her. It's incredibly rewarding. And once you realize it's a skill set that can be learned and you get better at it and you desensitize to it so you're not fearful anymore, it's basically a superpower. Because in 2025, everyone's social skills are through the fucking ground because of these fucking things, the next big mental health crisis. And so I couldn't, and I know Troy's on the same page as this, we can't emphasize how much this stuff is so important and will leverage you above the pack more than it's ever done in historical terms because everyone's hooked on their fucking devices and banging monkeys from Tinder. So why wouldn't you do this?
Exactly. Especially Mr. Cadillac racing fan. Only joking, man.
It's actually brutal, isn't it? Giving us some grief.
It's grim up north. Do you ever remember there was an old techno dance track called "It's Grim Up North," and it went "It's Grim Up North," and then it listed all these places like Otley.
Oh, you're gonna have to send that to me. That's going to be good gym for me.
Yeah, it was quite a banger actually back in the day. Anyway, I digress. So join us in Bogota, 24th to 27th of April. Email info@jamestusk.com or troy@realtroyfrancis.com. But if you've just got any questions about it or you want to have a further chat about it, just drop us a message, or you can DM on our social platforms and we'll get back to you. And we will see you again very soon. Bye-bye.